I'd like to point out that absolutely no bottles of alcohol were harmed in the making of this video. However, their insides were drank out like something from a Hannibal film. Hello and welcome to a very Irish installment of the Car Nerd Talks, and it wouldn't be an Irish video without some sort of alcohol, and I'm not driving at the moment, and there's coronavirus, and it's basically Friday, so this is fine. So today I want to talk to you about the only ever Irish car made. Now, I'm sure someone in the comments is going to tell me there was another Irish car, or the DeLorean, I believe, was manufactured a slight amount in Belfast, but that's not really Ireland until those bloody Brits give it back. And in case you haven't noticed, I am an Irish person, and I would love to hear if you know of another Irish car that was produced in Ireland. That would be fantastic. However, for the purposes of this video, let's say there's only one, because as far as I'm concerned, there is, and as far as I'm aware, there is. But before we get into that, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Car Nerd. Jason Hassett here, who is talking to you today. That's me, and if you just stumbled across the channel, that's great. Subscribe and like, and I'd really appreciate it. So, let's get right into it, guys. So, as you may or may not be aware, in the 19th century, in the 1800s, there was a massive famine in Ireland, and a lot of people emigrated. A massive amount of the population, almost half. So Irish population at the time was around 8 million, and it died. A lot of them died off, around 2 million, and the rest emigrated down to the point of around 3 to 4 million left in the population. Funnily enough, that's around where we're kind of getting back up to now, is 8 million in Ireland. And no, this is not Ireland, by the way. I am in Mexico, avoiding the coronavirus. I've hidden out like that movie Into the Wild, which if you haven't seen, definitely go and check out. That is a recommendation there. And I'm enjoying myself with the sun that's in and out right now. We got a pool down there, and the rent is ridiculously cheap because it's not Ireland, where it's ridiculously expensive, and they have lovely cervezas. But what I want to talk to you about today is two young lads who decided to go and make a car. And it's fucking crazy, this story. By the way, because this is an Irish edition, there will be more cursing, and I'll be putting that in the description. I'm sorry about this, but it's just how we do it, especially after a couple of the old, the yolks. So, essentially this guy, William K. Curtis, from County Monaghan in CastleBlayney, he knew there was a lot of Irish people in the States, and what he wanted to do was produce an Irish car in County Monaghan and ship it to America, thinking that a lot of these expatriates, expats as you call them, will buy them in Boston and Chicago and Detroit and all these different places where Irish people were primarily working in bars and manufacturing and that sort of thing. So they decided they were going to make a large luxury American car. And he joined up with American businessman John F Conway, and they bought a plant together, and they set their sights on something absolutely ridiculous. And it's a great story of what happened and what happened afterwards that we'll discuss now. But essentially, they thought they could compete with the Ford Thunderbird. And I imagine, like every great Irish tale, this happened in a bar. Two Irish guys, or at least an American Irish and an Irish guy in County Monaghan, I imagine, in some sort of bar, just going, hey, listen, we could build a Ford Thunderbird. I mean, we've all done it. I've often said to my friends, we should fucking go out there and start some sort of bar. It'd be brilliant. We could start our own one. And basically, you wake up the next morning with a hangover and you don't start any of these things. But these guys actually did. So William and John went into this bar, I assume, and the next morning woke up, and William was still pretty on this idea. And John F. Conway, the American businessman, had some money to invest. So they started mapping out the prototype for this car. And originally, it was a four-seater, two-door coupe with a hardtop removable. So I don't know if you guys remember the 80s and 90s Mercedes that had the hardtop. And you'll see Hoovy from Hoovy's Garage constantly talking about the turtle method, which is how you kind of get in and you lift it off with your back. And that's what they wanted, because that in the late 50s was the style. That was, something that was really kind of only in luxury cars like the high-end Thunderbirds. So they went about making a prototype of this, and they loved it. They created this 98-inch long wheelbase car, and in pearl white with this hardtop. And then they decided, right, this is a fantastic car. They made the entire whole frame from fiberglass, which was, again, I guess ahead of its time, and probably not for a good reason, but it could have been worse. They could have gone aluminium like the DeLorean and had all those problems. But they set up this factory then in CastleBlayney in County Monaghan and decided it was time to start producing their 10,000 cars, because these guys had set their sights on making 10,000 cars at a minimum. They wanted to produce 6,000 in the first year. Now, talk about Irish optimism and Irish drinking culture. 6,000 in the first year in CastleBlayney in County Monaghan was pretty high-sided. And would you believe they did it? No, I'm kidding. They didn't do it. They produced roughly 10, and there's about 8 left in existence. And there was good reason for this, and good reason why the US import market didn't jump at the chance to buy this Shamrock car. So reason number one is basically that they decided to do something absolutely ridiculous, which was American luxury cars in the 50s, and this car was produced in the year of 1960, so it would have been a 1960 model car. They decided to fit it with not a giant V8 or a V6 or even a straight 6 or something with 4.8 litres. No, they decided to fit it with a British engine from an Austin, Cambridge, and specifically the A55. Now, that's not a bad thing, it's not a bad engine, and the A55 motor was used in a lot of commercial vehicles. But it wasn't quite American. American massive luxury cars, they were rear engine, and they had massive V8s producing 150, 200 horsepower in a lot of these, and Americans were just used to comfortably going in a straight line with these massive engines roaring. They weren't worried about gasoline. Unfortunately, if you've ever been to Ireland, you'll know that V8s and V6s are something that the wealthy aspire to in their cars that they use for Sunday driving, or people like me that want in an old classic car that we wouldn't drive every day, or I probably would because I'm an idiot. So this A55 engine was a 51 horsepower engine, and if you listen to the stats of what this produced in the Cambridge, which was a lot lighter than this massive luxury car they were creating, it might give you good reason as to why Americans didn't quite pick up on it. So this A55 engine had a top speed of a whopping 77 miles an hour. And to get from 0 to 60, let alone 77, it would take a massive 27 seconds. So you can imagine in this massive, heavy car, it would probably never get to 77, let alone 0 to 60 in 27 seconds. I would love to take one of the remaining cars and test it. Sorry about that. I needed to cut filming because of two reasons. One, the battery went, and secondly, that gave me time to drink more. So let's continue. So essentially, instead of just building with the A55 engine, they also put the transmission and suspension from the A55 Cambridge into the Shamrock car. The problem with this is basically that the car... Sorry, I'm a little drunk. The car was built... The Cambridge car was built for roads in Ireland and England, which are twisty-turny roads. You need quite stiff suspension and a firm setup. The problem with this is in America, they liked, at the time, their kind of loose and wavy motor engines and suspension. Air suspension is the one I'm actually... Probably not have drank this whole thing. So, the suspension and transmission was also a problem. So not only was it horrendously slow, it was also really uncomfortable for Americans. Hence why they probably only sold 5 to America. Not 5,000, not 500, 5. Oh, God. And the problems didn't stop there. The other problem was that they decided to make the car kind of side paneled properly. So the rear wheels couldn't be removed because they put these huge wheel arches and body panels over the wheels. So if you got a flat tire, you couldn't physically remove the rear tire, which was a nightmare, because can you imagine getting stranded at the side of the road and trying to remove your tire and then finding out that you can't? In the modern era, this would never happen, and at the time it obviously wasn't allowed either, because again, they sold 5 to America. 5. Enough of... It's all gone now. Much like a slightly racist version of Henry Ford, and to misquote these guys as well, you could get this car in any colour as long as it was white. Now there is one version of this car out of the 8 remaining in the entire world that isn't white, but that was repainted candy green for obvious reasons, because green is the colour of my country, Ireland, where this car was built. So apart from that, they're all fully in white. So they managed to, in 6 months of production, create roughly 10 of these cars, including the prototype. I think it was about 11, and there's 8 of them surviving, as I said. So much less than the 6,000 they wanted to create in the first year, which would have made 3,000 in the first 6 months. Mathematically speaking, this didn't happen. So they made 10 out of their, let's say, 3,000 goal. Oh, Jesus, that's strong. Little product placement there. So they did something then that was typically Irish as well, and after not being able to salvage the company and deciding to close down, they decided to partake in an Irish tradition. The British call it fly tipping, we call it chucking your shit wherever you want. And they took all of the unused parts and they went to a nearby lake that was close to CastleBlayney in County Monaghan, and this lake was Lough Muckno, and they just threw the parts in there. How typically Irish can you get? I say this while drinking tequila, which is the sponsored brand of Mexico, where I am today. So as I said, unlike this tequila here, it's a very rare car to find. There are only 8 left in the entire world, and of the ones that were shipped to America, only 3 remain. 2 in California and 1 in Seattle. And the guy who found it in Seattle, he actually wanted to buy one, but the guy was throwing around silly numbers and it was sitting there and there was lots of problems with it. It had been just destroyed, and this guy had found it in Kansas, and he just left an ad up, and eventually someone got back to him and one managed to ship to Seattle. There is also 5 left in Ireland, so there's 3 in America, 5 in Ireland, 1 in CastleBlayney, 1 in... So there is 5 left in Ireland, 1 in Killarney, 1 in CastleBlayney, 1 in Wexford, and 2 in Drogheda, of all places. I'm surprised the 2 in Drogheda haven't been stolen, but that could be the drink talking. Guys, thank you so much for watching about this Irish car from my heritage, and by my heritage I mean Ireland, of which I'm not living anymore, but I definitely still drink like the Irish. And just to show you that, I'm going to show you all of the bottles that were used in the making of this video. I'd like to point out that absolutely no bottles of alcohol were harmed in the making of this video. However, their insides were drank out like something from a Hannibal film. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and this is the alcohol channel known as the Car Nerd, where today we talked about a very Irish car from my country, Ireland, of all places. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, because basically if you like and subscribe, I can get drunk more at home in front of a camera, entertain you, and make some money while I'm at it. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys soon.